Terence Parkin of South African fills lane 7.
Here's Parkin. He's hearing impaired. You'll have a look as the gun goes off for everybody. Parkin gets a special light behind his block. He won the 400 IM here on Sunday and withdrew from the 200 IM to focus on
I'm very happy to be here. I'd like to introduce you to our interviewee. His name is Terence Perkins, and this is his sign name, Terence Perkins. People in the world, whether they are deaf and hearing, know about Terence Perkins because he is an Olympic champion. He has competed in both the Deaf Olympic Games and the Olympic Games. Terence, tell us, how many medals have you won altogether? Well, in total, I've won 34 medals. 34 medals. I've won 1 silver medal at the Olympic Games, and I've won 33 medals at the Deaf Olympic Games. Well, that's truly impressive. We pay our respects to you. People are curious to know more about your Olympic experiences. I want to take this opportunity now to ask you a few questions because we'd like to learn more about your history and how it is that you came to be an Olympian and Deaf Olympian. Where were you born, Terence? Can you tell us? Sure. I was born in Zimbabwe. My mother was unwell during her pregnancy. I was born deaf. I went to a mainstream integrated school in Zimbabwe, but I was unhappy with my experience there. South Africa had a school for the deaf in Durban, so my family decided to move to Durban for my better education, and as a result...
At first, his parents, Neville and Bev, had no idea that there was anything wrong.
We were both young.
When Terence was 18 months old, Neville and Bev realized that he couldn't hear anything, and doctors confirmed their worst fears. There were very few educational opportunities or a support system for deaf children.
And as a result of that, we lived in South Africa. Are your parents hearing? Yes, both of my parents are hearing. Are you the only deaf person in your family? Yes. I have one sister who is hearing. How did you communicate in your family? My parents signed and spoke. And we had our own home signs, our own home language as well. So Terence, you grew up in Durban. Did you start swimming in Durban? How is it that you came to be interested in swimming? At what age did you start? At school, they encouraged us to swim and be involved in different sports, and I loved swimming. But it wasn't until the age of 12 that I really became serious, and I remember watching the 1992 Olympics on television, and I said to my parents, I want to be an Olympian. I want to compete in the Olympic Games. My parents said, you can do whatever you want. You can do it. A few months later, I entered my first swimming competition. I was not a member of a club. It was just my school experiences, there being in competition. My mother at the time assisted me by letting me know when the starter's gun went. She threw her arm down at the start. So I did the butterfly than backstroke. But unfortunately, I did the butterfly and then did the wrong stroke back. So I was disqualified in my first event. And people thought, wow, he has real talent. So after seeing me just race once, someone approached my mother and said, "Is your son in a club?" My mother said, "No, he's an individual swimmer." And then I was invited to be a member of this swimming club. And I forgot about that. But then sometime later, again, this person said to my mother, "Where's your son Terence?" And she said, "He's at school." And then she said, "We have been looking for him. Can you please make sure he comes to our swimming club? We'll give you our phone number." And this particular woman nagged my mother to bring me to the swimming club. And it was there that I started to be involved in a swimming club and a program. And this particular woman was a much better swimmer than me, and I was embarrassed.
That turned out to be the best bit of advice the Parkin family ever got. A month later, Graham Hill, once a South African champion swimmer himself, took Terence under his wing.
He had more enthusiasm maybe and more interest than other kids in that, but he just wasn't there. I mean, we used to laugh about it. We still do laugh about it. I mean, Terence was really, really slow when he first came.
6 years later, Terence Parkin is the fastest kid on.
This is the bare necessities, yeah.
These young swimmers are all talented. They're superbly fit, and some of them are at the
He actually rolled over into the wheel arch. So the wheel actually hooked him, and being a flat tire as well, it actually just churned him straight under the wheel.
True to his spirit, he was soon taking on the world again. His scar and shaved head have become the Terence Parkin trademark.
When did you notice Dennis White?
Because she would continually beat me. So you must have thanked this particular woman and her persistence for asking your mother to bring her to the swimming club. So what age did you join the swimming club? At the age of 12. That's right. So when I was 12 years old, I joined the swimming club. And I was involved in competitions over about a 1-year period. And you said that your mother assisted you at the start because you could not hit the starter's gun, so she gave you a visual signal. But how did you communicate with the hearing officials and all the other things that go along with that? Well, when I was involved in the swimming club, I had a coach, his name was Graham Hill, and he thought, how can we assist you? Because you are deaf, because you cannot hit a starter's gun. So they developed a visual sign that they would use their hand and drop that to indicate to me when the starter's gun went off. And then in time, they thought, well, we could use a plastic cup on the top of the starter's gun, so when the starter's gun went off, the plastic cup would move up in the air and I would know. So I would watch this signal, and they were all waiting, and I was unsure because it was cold when it would start, and I thought that I saw the cup move, but I actually had a false start. But in time, we changed that system, and we went back to the original system of a person dropping their hand for a visual signal. But in time, we also then developed a light system with the timers, and I couldn't see this flag, and then I asked the coach if one of the officials could be moved from one end of the pool to the other end of the pool so I could see when to start. And this was a much better way for me to start the race. And then when I would travel overseas, people would see that I was deaf, and I would see all the different officials, and they would say, okay, you're deaf. Well, how can we make sure that the start is accessible to you? So different people would use their imagination and create different starting systems for me, including flashing lights next to my block, which were linked to the starter's gun, many different starting systems. It's good to see people provide consideration to and problem solve, whether it's starting with a start gun and dropping of a hand. There's a slight time delay. How did you manage that? That's right. The dropping of the hand and the light is different. The light is much faster than the dropping of the hand. So the speed of light travels faster than the speed of sound. So it's true, I was at a slight disadvantage. So if the two were synchronized, then that would be much better. Then I would not face that disadvantage. As a deaf person, were there any advantages to you compared to your non-deaf or hearing competitors? Well, maybe 0.1 of a second I have an advantage. But in swimming, every microsecond is important, right? Whether it's at the start, during the race, or at the end. You're right. The dive at the start is most important. And you need to have a fast response time. And standing at the block looking down to my right for these different signals was a disadvantage. Being able to look down at the block and the lights certainly assisted my start and preparation for the race. Could you please tell us a little about your training regime? How much time you invested in your swimming training? Well, swimming life is tough. Monday to Friday, I would have the same program 5 days a week. Monday to Friday, I would be up at 4 a.m. We would then drive a half an hour to the swimming pool, arrive there at 4:30 a.m. I would have a stretching program for 30 minutes, and then at 5 a.m. I would be in the water until 7 a.m. for 2 hours of swimming training. Then after that, I would go to school. I would be at school for the day, and then I would finish at 1:30. Then I would go back for training at the gymnasium from 2 p.m. for 2 hours to 4 p.m. Not hard, strenuous training, but strength training, cardio training. And then at 5:30 p.m. I was back in the water for 2 hours, and I'd finish at 7:30 p.m. Go home and have dinner. Every day, 5 days per week. On Saturday morning, I had a 3-hour training session. And then on Sunday, it was a day of rest, but I would participate in different types of competitions, and I would be swimming on Sundays. So on average, it would be 80 to 100 kilometers that I would swim per week. So swimming 100 kilometers every week is a heavy training regime. Did you have a particular diet? Was there a certain number of calories that you had to have per day? Can you tell us about your diet? I ate a lot. I did not have a strict diet. I love meat and protein, so I did not have a fixed diet at that time. I did not have particular types of vitamins, supplements. I didn't believe in that. I believed in a normal, healthy diet. Did other people in your training squad have a particular food requirements or diets? They did, but I wanted a normal, healthy diet. Tell us, how did you communicate with your fellow swimming members and competitors? Fortunately, for me, we knew each other, and as swimmers, we had lighter type of conversations, not heavy conversations, but I could see that many struggled to communicate with me, and I really focused upon my swimming. So I wasn't distracted by other things that were happening around me, so I was left alone. Sometimes there were communication breakdowns, and I would have to try and resolve things. There were things throughout the time, but there were no major problems really.